Now we have another amazing story. It brings us Diane Nyland and Pat LaMarche. They've started a tour called Epic, Everyday People in Crisis, highlighting homelessness problem. And they're actually going all throughout the Southwest. They're calling themselves the Babes of Wrath, which is very clever, actually. Diane actually, in 2005, did a 20,000-mile journey in 34 different states, and even has a documentary, My Own Four Walls, about that. Obviously, they join us in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
All right, now you're in the middle of the tour now. So tell me about the tour. How does it work? Who do you see? What do you do?
Well, we travel to different communities throughout the Southwest to help people understand that there's homeless kids and families and adults out in their own communities. So we may give presentations, show the film, talk to kids, interview, visit prisons, whatever we can do to find out about homelessness and help the community.
So how do you help those kids, Pat? Okay, let's say you're in wherever it is, Albuquerque, I'll make it up, right? And you got the homeless kids and you found them. What's the next step?
Well, a lot of times we try and tell them about the resources they may have, especially for children. There's a thing that actually Diane helped implement, the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Act. A lot of kids who are homeless don't realize the fact that they don't have to lose their school, they don't have to lose their friends. So we kind of put them in touch, especially by showing Diane's videos, with the information they need so that they can stay as normal a bunch of kids as possible. You know, you can't have a sleepover party when you're in a homeless shelter.
You know, of course. And Diane, you know, there's a lot of demonizing of the homeless these days. They get blamed. Oh, it's your fault, and you're part of the 47%. That's a taker and not a maker, and all this stuff. You interact with them all the time. I mean, it's kind of a funny thing to ask, but just tell us what they're like. I mean, is there any truth to that nonsense? Well, obviously you can see where I'm coming from.
The nonsense. There's a dead giveaway. And you know, the demonizing happens for the adults mostly. The kids get ignored. And that's really been the problem, is our country doesn't know that we have millions of kids, babies, toddlers, with their parents, some without their parents, that are homeless. And, you know, they're the ones that are struggling to survive and to get out of it. And our country doesn't even know we have that problem. So, no, these are kids that are kids, and they really are looking for a chance. The kids in the My Own Four Walls video, they just want to go to school, and they want to, you know, have a chance to be successful.
And Pat, you know, I assume that there's a range of how people got into that situation. What do you see most often?
Well, you said the makers are the takers, and actually they're the makers. They're just making it such a low income. Minimum wage, 2 jobs. We spoke to a woman yesterday in LA who has 2 jobs at 2 different hotels to try and make ends meet, and she herself is living in a hotel because they condemned her apartment. She was given 3 days to get out, didn't have money for a new security deposit, and boom, her family's homeless. So these people are also the makers. And that, I think, is the biggest surprise I run into, is people think they're all people who are out of work, and being out of work's bad enough. But an awful lot of them have jobs, but the jobs don't pay well enough. When I ran a shelter, we had, you know, half a dozen people who left that place every day in a fast food uniform. They're working, they're making your cheeseburger. If you feel good about eating it because the person just left the homeless shelter, then enjoy your meal, you know?
That's amazing. I think a lot of people don't know that part of the story at all. Now, Diane, how about the government? Are there sufficient programs to help, or, I mean, I'm sure we could always do more, but what do you direct people to, and do you think the government's doing enough?
Well, certainly the government is a big part. It's one of the legs of the solution, and their $2 billion a year to help is so insufficient. But the government actually did something really good that has not gotten any coverage, and that was the stimulus funds. It was money to help families either get out of homelessness or prevent homelessness. What was it, $1.8 billion got spent to prevent homelessness, and that's the kind of stuff that we really need to invest in, and we're not.
Pat, just real quick, last thing here. If you could spend the money on anything, what's the most effective way of spending it to help people who are homeless, especially the kids?
Houses. Absolutely. I mean, they
That's
think
the most logical answer I've ever heard on this program.
Well, you can count on me for that.
No, and it's amazing because now that, you know, there's another story we didn't get a chance to do here, but different cities are finding different ways to criminalize what they do. You know, cops dressing up as tourists to get them to say, aha, you panhandled, and they put them in jail, and they spend more money putting them in jail than they would getting them a house.
You know, they also spend more money taking kids away and putting them in foster care than they would giving the parents a house. It's a crazy system. All
right, Diane and Pat, thank you so much for joining us and doing what you do. And everybody, of course, check out Hear Us and look for Babes of Wrath. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.